Part 2. The Seven Heavens. Chapter 15. The First Heaven and the First Teacher, the Divine Essence. A vision beyond life descended upon the world, and this vision was beyond my control. A red gateway appeared before the Mother's Pyramid, and this gateway was nothing other than the opening into the true nature of our soul. Sensitivity was heightened. Moods began to shift like a tidal sea. But as I looked down to the ground, my sight revealed I stood in three places at once: a vast desert, a jungle forest, and an oceanic beach.
We are entering the sacred world. It is a parallel plane. This torii is the entrance into the spirit world. Gone beyond the material world, the rest of our nature is falling in tune. To journey through the seven heavens, you will pass through the 28 nakshatras. While some call them the 28 mansions of the moon,
said the kami. 7 heavens and 28 what?
Do not get caught up on the names, concepts, or ideas. The point is that this journey is taking us beyond form into formless. Some separate the spirit world into 7 heavens, yet there are 28 teachers, and I am the first, the divine essence,
said the kami. Were we outside the mirror of physical reality, but still a sensation of illusion increased? The 3 doors were separate, yet appeared as a united one, like 3 rivers coming together, and so the choice seemed to call me forward, where I allowed my soul, mind, and body to enter. When I looked back, there was no earth to be found. Then I heard an ethereal vibration that emerged from the sky and began to reshape the clouds. It spoke in a vibrational tone, and after some time, it seemed to settle into a lack of form.
It is not you that is the heart of the matter, but rather what's most important is what we are called to do. We have all been called, all people and all religions, to bring forth the age of truth, said the kami's divine essence. Now it was I who stayed silent, as I could not comprehend how this divine essence had arrived. It gazed down upon us, but when it came to the material world, it didn't care to interfere. That's when I realized the immensity of its power, and so I felt a surge of fear. This great being was not only immortal, but it was all-powerful and divine. I quickly understood that it didn't need to speak words, because it was tuning into every thought within my mind. Like a radio or receiver, I was tethered into this great vision. I was like a tiny antenna, and the divine was always tuned in. Kensho,
it said.
You are seeing into our true nature and essence.
After I released the fear, the dark clouds turned white, spacious and gentle. This grand vision acted like a mirror when a reflection of all that was happening came upon the various planes of the spiritual, emotional, physical, and mental. At first my ego began to expand, for I thought I might be controlling it. And the moment this came to mind, the great vision disappeared, and the true nature of the vision split. I fell to my knees, and the rain began to surge.
Calm down. All of spirit likes to play, so you can simply smile. Try to keep an attitude of playfulness about you, and so it's best to think of your soul as an embodied infant or child. Everyone loves children, but no one likes an adult who thinks he or she is too clever. The quickest way to be shot down in the spiritual field is to believe that you are all-powerful, as if a human ego could control the weather,
said the voice of spirit in the sky. Sitting upon my knees, this was not up to me, and so I focused my energy inward, as I relaxed my body and turned my attention to become more playful and free. What was in my control? For I was a tiny soul. And so I gazed at the great vision, which was likely a reflection of both the material and spiritual whole.
The universe is endless and beginningless. So for those who are sincere and work hard, you may reach the state of continual awareness. This discovery reveals how we are all the universal soul, the one, in union with the God of creation. And as you have now seen, the true nature of reality is covered by the material illusion. Some humans have gotten a glimpse of the true nature of reality, and from this experience of clarity, people share what has been experienced, and so arise many different religions.
Who are you?
I am the remover of darkness. I am the Guru. I am the light of the universe. I am the soul within you,
said the divine essence of the Kami. Then I am your disciple.
A teacher wants to make the disciple into their own teacher. The self, which is the absolute reality, the true Guru. This self, which is beyond absolute reality, is beyond attribution and form. A true teacher makes the disciple go beyond attribute and form. First, I make the child go beyond the bondage of karmic debt. Then I make the disciple realize the nature of God. And there we become teacher sisters or teacher brothers. This is what it takes to make a disciple. But how many real disciples can a teacher have? 1 or 2? A handful at most. Jesus had only 12, and not all of them had the same capacity or achieved the same things. 4 of them, like John, had goodness, purity, and truth predominating in their natures. They were the ones who best followed Jesus' teachings. 4 of them became pillars of the church, like Peter, who was dominated by passion, activity, self-centeredness, and individualization. And 4 disciples, like Judas, were full of imbalance, ignorance, and apathy,
said the Kami. What do you mean the pillars of the church are full of passion, activity, and self-centeredness?
Jesus strived to include all people, all religions, and all beings, but the church that came in his image seems to promote their own self-interest. Suppose you meet a saint, and they talk about collecting your money to build a spiritual center. Then you should depart immediately. Why would a saint or a church try to establish something? If God wants us to have it, God will have it. This is the right attitude. But rather, only when you have no faith will you collect money, or disciples, followers, or whatever. It is absolutely scandalous how many people are making money and fame for themselves off the scriptures. Jesus never commercialized his teachings, so why should anyone else do so? Great beings don't like to be known by multitudes of people. They prefer to live alone and die alone so they can be closer to God. Any church that promises their followers heaven, liberation, or jhana, which is the divine garden, is mistaken,
said the Kami. So as the divine essence, you are my first teacher, yet you have no set attributes, form, or features, and somehow you seem to dwell everywhere and everything, in all plants and in all creatures and things. Then what do you make of our lives upon the earth? Is everything out of our control? Surely I am in service of you, since you have given me this soul. For what I see now is that your divine essence of spirit and matter is the one creator. I realize that it is you beyond the scenes of life who is playing about and directing everyone else, and so I may think of you as the maker of a great drama. So could I call you a grand narrator?
Do not demand for someone's soul if you've got their heart. Remember that from the material plane of reality, we may appear separate, but our true nature has never been apart. The personalities will change, but the soul is timeless, and so you must understand the immortal aspects, as there are those among us who are known as the deathless. As I have said this, if you are sincere and work hard, you can reach the state of continual awareness to realize that you yourself are the Supreme Soul, the One, and so this is the God within us,
said the Divine Essence. But what is it that is within us?
Our moral consciousness has three normal states: walking, dream, and deep sleep. Then there is a state beyond these three, in which you are continually aware that God's nature is within you, and so you are aware that you are the absolute reality, but that is only the beginning. In spite of knowing that you are a spirit soul, and all spirit souls are of God, you cannot do everything that God can do. You cannot create like God, preserve like God, and destroy universes like God. It is all very well to know that you are a spark of God, but there is an immense difference between imagining that you can create your own universe and actually being able to do so. While you are limited to the universe you live in, a rishi or a saint can create as many universes as there are stars in the sky. The difference between anyone and a saint lies in the power of will. To know that your nature is the soul of God in knowledge, but when there is full knowledge of God, then there is no iota of ego which remains. Here discrimination, doubt, and determination disappear. In yogic language, this is called nirvikalpa samadhi. You can be satisfied with the absolute, but there is no joy in it. It is dry. It has no juice. How can joy exist when everything has ceased to exist? When observed, observer, and observation are one. This knowledge is good, but special wisdom is far better, and this is called Vijnana. When you reach the state of Vijnana, you realize, oh, there is someone behind the scenes who is playing about and directing everyone else. When this happens, you become a siddha, or one with powers. And only when you go beyond yourself as a witness can you understand and know the siddhas, or the powers of the universe,
said the Kami. What do you mean by siddhas?
A siddha is one who returns from nirvikalpa samadhi to perfect Vijnana, or to realize the nature of the grand narrator some know as God. Here is how it works. You go from the state of ignorance, in which you possess attributes, to the attribute-less state of knowledge, and then back to the qualified state again, with a difference. You existed in relation with the illusion of the material world, since you are manifested in a body. But there is a big difference between being in the confused world and being on top of it. As Jesus said, be in the world, but not of it. And so we can know with certainty that Jesus himself was a siddha. A siddha does experience joy and sorrow, and other pairs of dualities, but not in the same way as before. Both an ordinary man and a siddha cry when they visit the graveyard, which is the true temple of God, a place of eternal reality. An ordinary man cries tears of misery because he is suffering from separation. He thinks he has lost something he thought he possessed. Yet, a siddha cries tears of joy because they understand the play of Mahadevi, the goddess of all reality. A siddha can safely admire the play of nature as a perfect observer. Nowadays, everyone who gets a little power thinks they are a siddha. Such people are only fooling the gullible and cheating themselves. Many people are trying to strive to obtain a siddhi, which is a supernatural power, but few are willing to strive for God. There are even plenty of supernatural powers to be had, and many of them are quite easy to obtain. One of the simplest is for the control of snakes. You can succeed at it in a single day. Many Westerners have siddhis too, because they have made great technological advances in a very short time. They have learned to hear across vast distances, how to fly through the air, and how to harness the power of the atom. All these are supernatural powers. They have done their own research and demonstrated the results. The key with these achievements is that they are outside of the body. They are in gadgets, external things which can always be lost or broken. In the Eastern world, in India, Nepal, and Pakistan, they have turned their attention inward, and the results can never be lost or destroyed. There is a big difference between the East and the West. Now, most teachers and gurus will tell you to shun siddhis like the plague, and that is correct, in the sense that it is so easy to get attached to them. Obtaining a siddhi is a great achievement, and when you obtain one, it is natural to immediately think of showing off your newfound powers to others. But to do so is very foolish and dangerous. The real purpose of siddhis, which exist in the subtle body, is to remove one's karma from the causal body, which is basically just a warehouse of karmas, and then to repay these karmic debts. The subtle body is the intermediary between the causal and physical bodies. It is less subject to gravitation than the physical body. So when it is released from the grasp of the physical body, it can go higher and higher. Then there is no limit to the heights it can reach. But its main job is to go into the causal body and remove the karma stored there. Being able to do this still does not make you a siddha. It is easy enough to learn how to take out your astral body with substances, plants, the mind, or various drugs. It is a great achievement to be able to sit in one place and maintain consciousness of many different places and many different planes of existence all at once. But even that does not make you a siddha. You must search long and hard before you find a real siddha. You cannot become a siddha over one weekend. Nor can you follow a course and get certified by a charlatan's life coaching school. No, you have to work your tail off, literally, by sitting in meditation, yoga, or performing rituals for lifetimes. And even after so much penance, you must still be tested, and naturally, the test for becoming a siddha is very rough. It is no joke to become a siddha. As the nature of the soul is one with God, not all personalities are deathless, and so we must speak about those personalities we call the immortals. There is a term called Mahapurusha, which means great soul, and refers to any being who has become immortal as a result of spiritual practice. Saints and angels, or in other religions they may be called rishis, munis, naths, and siddhas, are all great souls. No matter how hard the tests are, as saints, silent sages, protectors, lords, and those who have supernatural powers, it is all worth it to become a siddha. This is a unique accomplishment, because you go beyond all the elements, and you can then play about with them as you please. A siddha has no physical restrictions. You become immortal, deathless, which means you are ethereal,
said the divine essence of the kami. So how come all beings are souls, but only the nature of some are eternal? I thought that we are all strands of God's creation. So wouldn't that mean that we are all ethereal?
To understand this, I will refer to the Buddhist wheel of creation, which explains that there are 6 aspects to existence. There is the God realm, the jealous idols, the human realm, the animal realm, the hungry ghost realm, and the hell realm. These could be thought of as psychological states of our inward existence, and so all souls are living in one of these 6 states of existence at any given time. Since there appears to be the highest realm, the God realm, and the lowest realm, that of hell, the nature of existence reveals where we are attached, and in one way or another could be thought of as a type of karmic contract we have to pay back. In essence, we aren't punished by God, but rather, the way things are is from the choices we have made. Not to say that one realm is better than the others, because one could make tremendous progress from the realm of hell, and make no spiritual progress in the God realm. In that sense, the realm of hell would be a great spiritual blessing. So although we are of the universal soul, we are bound by our choices, and so karma, or our past actions and deeds, is not something we can escape. For those who are attached to their personalities, then we come back to sort out the places where we are attached. And let's say we've caused a great deal of harm or conflict, then the essence of who we are will be called to heal it, and so the soul comes back. This is the wheel of life, which shows that however we live our lives, good or bad, the journey goes on and on to match an individual's impact. And the essence behind the immortals is that those aspects of the soul healed their karmic debts and are no longer attached to the wheel at all. It could be said that they transcend the cycle of suffering, as they are not caught or attached to the world. And when the body dies, the soul journeys upwards. In essence, a soul can go beyond the 6 states of existence and the wheel of all life together. Different religions and traditions will view this differently, yet all these faiths, beliefs, and creeds are based on a prophet's glimpse at the true nature of reality,
said the divine essence of the Kami. Would it be fair to say that we are washing away the layers and perceptions of how we see existence to be? In essence, we are cleansing the ego, which grasps and attaches to its own personal wants, which in turn distorts our view of the true nature of a united reality.
Very nice. So in a way, we are opening ourselves to be totally naked. We are detaching from layer after layer in order to see our inward reality, which is the pure nature of bliss, heaven, and freedom. Now the closer you get to this, the more people who are attached to the ego nature of reality often react with anger and are frustrated. Saints and sages are not very popular when they are alive because they do not seek approval, but rather they seek the truth. Have you heard the story of Saint Francis stripping naked in public? Certainly, he was getting glimpses of the true nature of reality. And have you heard of Saint Teresa of Avila? She was getting glimpses of the interior castle, which was beyond what the church leaders at the time could even see. And so the common leaders saw both of their behavior as teetering on the verge of hypocrisy. But in actuality, they were getting glimpses of the true nature of reality. In Zen, this is called Kensho. It is a glimpse of creation's totality. Now to become a Siddha is wonderful and marvelous, but it's not the ultimate. All this happens because the inward energy is moving in all sorts of ways, igniting the various centers, which a yogi calls chakras, and so some call this a Kundalini awakening. You may get visions from this, you may get wisdom or a divine transmission, and you may form a little orbit for yourself where you could remain for ages. Siddhas usually stay in their own orbits because they are so fascinated by what they have achieved. Only if you are forcibly pulled further by some higher authority will they move ahead. And when they do, they see that there are much better orbits to move into. To progress as a Siddha, you must forget about everything else except getting closer and closer to the center. It is almost impossible to reach the center, which is the realm of the senior-most rishis, saints, and sages. But anyone can get closer and closer to it. If at any time you decide you've had enough of existence, you can completely eradicate your personality and merge into the center. Try to get some perspective on what I am talking about here. Even after one becomes a Siddha, it takes time to progress further. Of course, a Mahapurusha, or great soul, who has gone beyond time, space, and causation, has no value for time. But to the normal person, it seems impossibly long. And after lifetimes, a Siddha may be permitted to meet a Nath and learn from them. If a Siddha works really hard, he or she can become a Nath. Naths are Aghoris, which means they have now come to obey the left-hand path. They make everything in their being self-identify with Shiva, the destructive and recreating force of God, even under the most trying, terrifying, and tempting circumstances. Their motto is free from attribution or discrimination. After all, what is that one thing which is undefined and undefiled? It is God alone. Most people would be terrified to see a Nath in their real form, with matted dreadlocks, big fire tongs, a bag full of ashes from cremated beings, and fierce, unblinking eyes. But then again, it's all part of a soul's costume, which has meaning behind it. The immortal Naths are passionately devoted to their teacher and guru, Dattatreya, and they dress in honor of the first Nath, Lord Shiva. Thus, Shiva is not the teacher here. He is a fellow disciple of Dattatreya, the first of all Aghoris. Can you imagine what sort of being Dattatreya is if his original pupil was Shiva himself? The word Nath really means master or protector, as they are masters and protectors of the 10 senses. Then a special nerve is created, the 11th sense, which permits them to receive their instructions telepathically or intuitively. Naths are higher than Siddhas because they get telepathic transmissions directly from their gurus, teachers, sages, and hermits. This is why Naths are always waiting for instructions. That which is heard without the ears, seen without the eyes, spoken without the tongue,
said the Divine Essence. So since I was raised as a Catholic boy, and I've studied various other traditions, I'm only now starting to see that there are links between each religion that seem to be hidden. For instance, all religious prophets, be it Moses or Muhammad, received a certain telepathic transmission, and so it seems that the leaders of all spiritual traditions had transmissions from God's behalf to fulfill a total divine mission. This mysterious connection to God was interpreted differently depending on where you were born and the social and cultural ways of life. Then, it fell upon the leaders of the church to organize the religion after each prophet died. This is where it gets a bit confusing, because religions alone were left to interpret the wisdom, but it was the Siddhas, saints, Naths, and prophets who were the ones who actually got the spiritual transmission.
Such immortals have complete control over their senses. Naths are protectors and masters of the physical world also. Just by pissing or even spitting on a rock, a nath can produce gold. In alchemy, you have to use metal as your raw material, but a nath only needs a rock. Yet a nath has no value for gold, or for people like kings, businessmen, and politicians who do value it. A nath only values the gold of pure consciousness. A nath is really a spiritual touchstone. Whoever comes in contact with a nath must become spiritual. They must become a real man or woman of God, whether they want to or not. This is the power of a nath. Naths have a very different way of teaching altogether, for they do not care about being viewed as holy, pure, and they certainly have no regard for their individual status. They do anything and everything to wake others up. And so it could be said that they follow crazy wisdom and are intoxicated by divine madness. The naths are actually the creations of a certain few sages, who in turn are merely manifestations of a few rishis or saints. But each group in turn is kept in ignorance of their true nature, so that the dance of life, which in India is called the Leela, can go on. They are limited in their new existence in order to perform certain tasks. If the naths and munis knew who they were, they wouldn't perform their duties properly. And after a long while, after long austerities, a nath can finally become a muni or sage. Actually, a muni should be called a mauni, or one who observes silence. He or she does not speak at all, and they communicate only with their eyes or telepathically. After a long time, a muni can become a rishi or saint. As the lower categories are all in orbit, they each have their own orbit, but are all bound, whereas a rishi or saint is totally free. Such a rishi and saint can travel to any star, any solar system, in the twinkling of an eye,
said the Divine Essence. Does all this apply to women too?
It is the same, as a woman who succeeds to the attributeless state comes back as a yogini, and the hierarchy is very strict. After much time, she moves to become a great goddess, and finally, she retires to the background like the senior-most rishis and saints do, to let others enjoy the play of existence. And those in the background do control all the players below. They pull the puppet strings. And so, what you called the grand narrator is the puppeteer. Few are aware of this, except the senior-most spiritual beings,
said the Divine Essence of the Kami. Are you saying what I think you're saying?
Yes, the rishis and saints are the puppeteers, and all other beings in the universe, mortal and immortal, are their puppets. The rishis go around assisting the karmic debts that people have to work off and help them progress spiritually. And if you want to quit being a puppet, then you have to do your spiritual practice,
said the Divine Essence of the Kami. What is the purpose of spiritual practice?
Nothing is ever lost in the universe. Even things which happened millions of years ago can still be known because of their impact and sound, which still exists. Sound is a vibration, which carries a series of waves, and can be transmitted in many ways. Light can carry sound, and humans usually perceive sound via molecules of air that vibrate. In light, something else vibrates, but the sound is there, within light all the same. The first sound of creation was Om, which is none other than the essence of God and totality. So through the evolution of spiritual practice, you may touch the essence of God, and this means you have gone beyond. And so in India, they are called Paramahamsa, or Supreme Swan. So the process goes from a Supreme Swan, then a Siddha, a Nath, to a Muni, and finally, a Rishi or saint,
said the Kami. And what does a Rishi mean?
The word Rishi means he or she who sees. A Rishi is a seer or a saint who sees with the eye of perception and who hears with the divine ear everything that has happened in the past. When he or she speaks with the divine tongue, whatever he or she says must take place. The Vedas are made up of mantric hymns which were seen, not composed, by certain rishis and saints. They heard the subtle sounds which make up hymns and translated them into words and sounds that the human ear can hear. These mantric hymns and poems can provide evolutionary leaps into the progress of those who know how to properly use them. The rishis throw these hymns around, checking to see who can take their power. When it comes to the limitations of time and space, Einstein believed that nothing could ever go faster than light in a vacuum. But he was wrong. Thought is faster than light, and so whatever a rishi thinks, manifests. A rishi merely thinks, and it arrives. A rishi is beyond all limitations of time and space that we can conceive, but even they have some exceedingly subtle limitations that they must live with. They never quite transcend all attributes and distinctions. If they did, how could they continue to exist separate from the cosmos? So, they continue doing their penances, getting closer and closer to absolute perfection without ever reaching it,
said the divine essence of the Kami. So why does a rishi come to earth then? If they're close, but keep falling short of the ultimate.
The rishis, or saints, in spite of being completely unlimited by an orbit, love to come down to earth and play about, to help lighten Mother Earth and her load. They visit all parts of the world and are great experiencers, and many find India most to their liking.
Why India?
Many go to India because it has something to do with the gravity there. Rishis have been to other civilizations, like that of Atlantis, which made great spiritual progress, and so have other civilizations, like the Egyptians, Assyrians, and Babylonians. Many people have learned they could take the soul out of the astral body and move about with it, but they could never progress as far as the rishis and saints did. The societies I mentioned produced siddhas, but they were really too conscious of the physical world to advance much spiritually. That's why the siddhas, or powers, can trap you. You can go on to build giant pyramids, sphinxes, societies, or even great technologies with such power, much like the Western world. But there is a karmic cost, or debt, to those more interested in worldly glory and power than true spirituality. Incan culture was also based on that of Atlantis, but never quite reached that stage of development. If you learn powers and learn to regenerate yourself, it could go to your head or ego. They were thought to worship blonde people, and other tribes worshipped other people of power. We see power being worshipped all over the world, but Atlantis sank under the ocean, and the ancient cultures of Egypt, Mayan, and parts of Peru have somehow vanished almost without a trace. But in spite of all the destruction, when there is a strong enough tie to spirit, the ancient culture remains, thanks to the blessings of the great souls who have come to enjoy the Leela, or play of life. Even when the rishis, or saints, live openly in physical bodies, they never want anyone to know them, since they would have no peace. Because even in the age of truth, there are plenty of people around to trouble the rishis with requests for help. So since they need peace and quiet for their journeys, rishis would pretend to be ordinary people and would live quiet lives with their wives, out of the way of busy places. These beings always seem to worship fire internally, but just to fool everyone, they might make a show of worshipping fire externally. Of course, if you're clever, you could recognize who was a rishi. Something would give them away, like their voices. Rishis wouldn't talk much in words, but when they talk, their voices would be like thunder. Almost all our ancient rishis were householders, which is another reason they could commiserate with the plight of embodied beings. No one is ever turned away from a rishi's temple or church, and everyone who comes is automatically benefited. Actually, a rishi is the embodiment of motherliness. In old days, when a rishi's wife or husband would scold one of her spiritual children for some foolishness, the rishi would take the disciple aside and say, "Don't worry about it. Do you want to do this? All right, go ahead and do it. I am here to look after you. Don't ask me how I know all of this." A rishi and their husband or wife also have a beautiful play together. The wife or husband would see to the details of running the temple or ashram or yoga studio and all the aspects of life, and the rishi would take care of the spiritual and astral aspects for both of them. Veda Vyasa was the rishi who wrote the Mahabharata and who divvied up the Vedas into 4 parts. His wife was totally devoted to him and never questioned what he told her to do. She knew he was a Shakti man, the directing, controlling factor, and she knew from experience that whatever he would direct her to do would be the right thing. He, in turn, never had any reason to question what she did, because he knew she was the perfect executive. What a partnership,
said the divine essence of the Kami. But how does a rishi arrive on earth?
Each rishi offers their own experience to the world by sending down his or her essence to be born as a prophet or a saint to guide and to teach. When things on earth come to such a predicament that the continued existence of a rishi's play of life seems threatened, a rishi will send down an emanation to guide the sheep of humanity back to the flock, just as Jesus set out to do. As Lord Krishna says in the Gita, whenever righteousness declines and unrighteousness increases, then I take birth in the world to protect the just, destroy the wicked, and re-establish righteousness. Krishna, Ram, Jesus, Moses, and Muhammad were rishis. They were avatars. Avatar means downward crossing, and an avatar crosses back from perfection into imperfection, solely because they love us and want to help us out. The rishis are beyond time and space until they come to earth, and then they make themselves subject to the rules which regulate us. They allow Mahadevi, the greatest goddess, to rule them while they remain with us, and permit the law of karma to direct their activities. This is why saints and prophets have always lived lives of misery. They are trying, by taking on our limitations, to show us how to live. They make examples of themselves so that we can learn from their examples. Each avatar is a projection of a particular rishi who appears during the age or yuga. That role is their prerogative, their personal play, or their birthright, you may say. No other rishi will even attempt to take over another one's role. There are as many of them as stars in the space or sand in the sea. So each rishi can play as he or she likes on so many different planets. And they do play in many places and in many different ways, according to the roles assigned to them. There have been many avatars of Vishnu, the preserver, all of which were driven by different rishis, each of whom provided a different flavor to the emanation. Dattatreya is one of Vishnu's avatars. When people talk about the avatars, they mean the 10 avatars of Vishnu, a particular group of 10 emanations who come to support the earth. In the age of truth, the first 5 avatars of Vishnu appeared, and this is when mankind is very much in tune with nature. Everyone can communicate telepathically, and they know things by intuition. In the age of truth, people are spiritually very good, very advanced, and because they don't bother with material things, they are technologically imperfect. And because they rely so much on nature to take care of them, they are more like animals than they are like people of the current age in the Kali Yuga. An animal has to rely on God. There is no other way for it to survive. Little by little, as the human intellect develops, people begin to think that they can improve nature or the world. This is the origin of society and civilizations. Still, they are in tune with nature during the next 2 ages, which follow the age of truth. It is only in our age, the age of the Kali Yuga, that we seem to forget all about nature and try to do everything on our own, and you can see the results around us,
said the divine essence of the Kami. Then what do we do about all of our suffering? I have seen the dark force of Kali, by which we seem to be trapped. She has entered into the Mother's Pyramid, so surely you have a divine map.
Why are you asking for something outside? Look into our true nature, and there you will see the map,
said the Kami. But someone must deal with Kali. Why, not long ago, I confronted her, but she has since hid. The Kali Yuga is the source behind the suffering and ignorance, and so I saw Kali run into the Mother's Great Pyramid.
So then, we are called to confront her again in the Mother's Great Pyramid,
said the Kami. All of this happened as we stood before the gateway into the Mother's Pyramid, and that's when I realized the projection of this play was only a picture of the Kami in the sky.
Wherever you are is where you are meant to be. You are ready to enter the Mother's Pyramid because you can see through the illusion clearly. In order to meet me, you went through the sacred gate, and so the pyramid where Kali is hiding symbolizes the essence of spiritual evolution. There are 28 teachers within the pyramid, and I am on the first level as the first one. And just because you found this journey, remember, it doesn't make you anything special or better than any other one. You are the same as anyone and everyone, since all souls are upon a spiritual journey. Go on and meet all of the 28 teachers. Then you will realize and embody the true nature of our reality,
said the Kami. I'm always in search of the way, but I'm never quite sure which way to go. Since you are of the divine essence, the supreme soul, then you alone must know.
A spiritual being has no particular path. They renounce imagining things in this world. The mind then ceases of its own accord, and the perfect state just naturally occurs. Go forth and look within, and if you must look back, then conjure the spirit of the places you have been,
said the divine essence of the Kami.